Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Amphibia, Season 3, Episodes 5 and on. And I got some beer. Because I feel like with this series, I may want to get drunk. Not to say this is a show that I need to be drunk to enjoy. Also, by the way, just as a note, it's very hard for me to get drunk because I have a very high alcohol tolerance level. I can handle a lot of alcohol. This beer won't get me drunk. But yeah, like I was saying, it's not that I feel like I need to get drunk to enjoy this show or anything, not by any means. But this show also, like, gets me super emotional, as you guys know. And I really get into it to the point where it's just like, I just want to drink and have fun, because you know, drinking is kind of linked to, in culture, to having fun, to stuff like partying and whatnot. In fact, I got this beer for a party. There was a bunch left over. So it's kind of ingrained into culture and kind of ingrained into our minds to think of beer as like, oh, having fun, enjoying your day and whatnot. So I want to have a beer and enjoy my time watching Amphibia. That's all I'm saying. And considering what we've had with this season so far, I'm very much enjoying my time. I'm having a fun time seeing what's going on. There's some big stuff being revealed, as well as some just cool little additions now that we're in, the human world. There is one thing that we have not seen yet that I will be actually genuinely upset about if we don't see. When we had the episode Hopping Mole, which, if you've seen my list of my favorite season 2 episodes, you know that was my number 1 on the list. In it, when talking about her mother, Anne mentions that her mom would sing these goofy Thai love songs while she was in the kitchen making food and stuff. We have not seen that yet. And that is something we need to see. We need to see at some point while Mrs. Boonchoy is working in the kitchen, we need to see and hear her sing some goofy Thai love song. Just once. It doesn't have to happen all the time. It just has to happen once. But we need to see that. That was such a huge, important, emotional moment for this series. It was the moment that really made me cry, as you remember. It was a big episode for me, and definitely one of my favorites. We need to see that. I feel like that's important, because it was a huge, story and character moment for Anne. And it's something that people are going to remember. So I want to see that happen. That's kind of one of my biggest wishes here. Obviously, at some point, Anne and the planners are going to return to Amphibia, but I do hope we see more of, Sasha and the rebellion going on there beforehand. That's another wish I have for the rest of the season. And I just want to see more interesting characters introduced and whatnot. Otherwise, it's again, I'm mostly spoiler-free on the rest of this season. I think I mentioned before that there's 1 or 2 things that I still do know about. Just because, again, everyone talks on social media. It's there's just, when something big, really big or notable happens, it's everywhere. It was the same thing with season 2 and Marcy getting impaled. It's I knew that was going to happen because it was everywhere. It was such a massive deal. It shook the pop culture world. It was so absolutely massive. It was easily one of the most talked about moments in this series. And there are a couple moments, a couple things like that coming up. Like, again, not a lot, and I don't know the context behind them, but I do know just those couple of things. So I don't know, like, exactly what's going to happen. It's just a couple things that I have a tiny bit of information on. I know they happen. I know they exist. But yeah, otherwise, again, I'm mostly spoiler free, and my biggest wish for the rest of this is just to see what we've already been seeing this season. I want to continue to see the just absolute love letter this season has been to Thai culture. As a white person, I acknowledge that most of history with media has been, especially with major media here in the US, has been that's so white. It's been super white. It's been just super heterosexual, and that's been seen as the norm. And I love that so many shows are changing that, because even though I'm white, I want shows to not reflect me as much anymore. In terms of that, obviously with being queer, it's like I very much want to see queer representation and trans representation specifically, but in terms of like race, I want to see other cultures represented. I love seeing that kind of stuff in these shows. I love hearing Luz speak in her native language in Owl House. I mean, okay, I guess technically English is still her native language, but you know what I mean. I love hearing her and her mom speak Spanish and all. I love hearing Anne speak Thai. And I love seeing the culture surrounding that. And I really want so many more movies to do it. Disney's actually been doing really fucking well with this lately. Diving into all these different cultures with their movies. From the Polynesian culture with Moana to, Encanto. Have you seen Encanto and Turning Red? Like, these movies are amazing. And Disney is actually really knocking it out of the park with that lately. Surprisingly. Because it's Disney. And Disney has been not great with that in the past. But, I mean, Disney's been not great with a lot of things in the past, let's be honest. But the fact is, we are seeing them start to show more of this, and especially with the animated films. And so I love seeing that. So I really want to continue to see this Thai culture brought in. As you know, last time, like with what we saw of that with the market and everything, and the culture and all the people coming together, and just them even finding out how they helped Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy while Anne was gone for those 5 months. It's like, that's so fucking awesome, and I love that so much. It's beautiful. It's genuinely beautiful. And you know what it kind of reminded me of a little bit? Just the way the culture was shown and everything. And I know these are two completely different cultures I'm going to compare here. So keep in mind, I'm not saying that the cultures are exactly the same or anything. I'm just saying with the way the cultures came together and the way they're supportive of each other, it kind of made me think of this. But it kind of reminded me of Miss Marvel and the Pakistani-American culture shown there. They also kind of had this market thing go on at one point, and they very much showed this community aspect to them. Now, again, obviously the cultures are not the same. Thai culture and Pakistani culture are not the same. They have a lot of differences to them. I'm not trying to make an argument like saying that they're equatable in too many ways. But there are some things that just, in the way they're presented within these shows, are similar. That's all I'm saying. There were some similarities in the presentations. And mind you, there's a lot of cultures around the world where community is a big aspect of that. So it's not like this is just like a thing that one culture owns. But still, I'm just saying, it just kind of made me think of that in how it was presented. And markets too. A lot of cultures have markets. Come But still, I love learning about these cultures. I love getting to see some of the things that make them unique and make them really stand out. And I love getting to see it in some of these modern shows with like Owl House and Amphibia, getting to see these characters speak their cultural languages. Whether it's Spanish or Thai or anything else, I want to continue to see this to happen. Because it's so important. Especially for white people like me, to be able to learn about other cultures around the world that aren't our own. We have to realize that it's not all about us. We have had so much representation for us for so long as the unfortunate standard in this industry. We need to support and back the idea that other cultures need that representation as well. This is important for so many people around the world to see. I've already heard so many stories of people who see themselves in Luz and her mother. So many people who see themselves in Anne and her family. And again, this goes to all these other examples I mentioned as well, and even beyond. These are the important stories we need to tell. Us white people have had our day. We need to step the fuck back and let other people shine as well. I really wanted to take this moment to just talk about that, because this series is doing an absolutely wonderful job with this representation. And it's one of my favorite parts of the show. You guys know how much I loved the episode in season 1 where Anne brought the Thai restaurant Flair to the restaurant in Morwood. I can't remember the name of it right now. I just watched that episode again recently with my sister, and I can't think of the name. But you guys know I love that segment in that episode, very much so. And it's like I want to continue seeing that now that we're in Anne's world and get to see her interact with her parents and the culture more directly. I really love that aspect of things with this series and with other shows that are doing this. And I really hope that we continue to have this. Because with Amphibia done, with Owl House only having one shortened season left, it's like, I want other shows to continue this trend. I don't want this to just kind of fizzle out or lose its steam. I want this trend to continue. And I really hope that we can continue to give representation to all these different cultures around the world through shows like this. So, for the time being... Oh, by the way, Ghost of Milo McGee is doing this too, and that has a season 2 coming in the future at some point. So Ghost of Milo McGee we have some cultural stuff there too with Molly's family, with her mother's side of the family. So yeah, we have at least one more show that's still ongoing at the moment. It's just this should be the new standard. The new standard should be diversity in animation. Representation for different cultures around the world, and letting them shine for once. So, I'm excited to see what more this season does with that. And we're just going to get into this. Like I said, we're doing episodes 5 and on. I don't know how many episodes we're going to do. As we tend to do with this series, we're just going to kind of take it as it goes. We'll do as many episodes as I feel is necessary, and when I feel like it's a good stopping point, we'll end it there. Last time we only ended up doing 1 episode, but that's because of how big that episode was. But this time it might be 2 episodes, it might be 3. I don't think it'll go beyond 3, but you never know. With this being the final season, I think there's going to be a lot of big episodes, so I doubt it'll end with 3, or that it will go beyond 3 rather, but you never know. We'll just have to see. Either way, I'm still excited to see more of this, and for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all. What am I doing? I think because I was talking so much about other stuff, I got confused and for some reason thought I was doing like an afterthoughts. Wow, I just had a brain fart. Um, Jesus. Oh, and one more thing. I just thought of it, by the way, after messing that up, ironically. Um, I want to make something clear here. Sasha is my favorite character from this, yes, the white girl. But it's because I just like her type of character, like the troubled, even semi-antagonistic character who ends up redeeming themselves and turning their life around. It's like I've always been into that archetype. Um, I love almost all the characters in this. I still love Anne a lot more than when this series started out. She has grown on me a lot, especially in season 2 and 3. Marcy is phenomenal. Marcy's absolutely phenomenal and absolutely lovable. And you guys know I love the Boonchoys. I love Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy. They're fucking adorable. I love them so much. Like they are probably two of the better parent characters, I would say, in current animation and all. They're just from instant likability. So it's like, yes, my favorite character is the white girl, and I'm talking all this about like we need to have all this cool representation for other cultures, but my favorite character is the white girl. It's like, I get it. I know, believe me, I know. But again, it's based on her archetype. If Marcy had this archetype, Marcy would be my favorite. Though I do love Marcy's archetype as well, just being really cool, neuroatypical nerd and everything. It's like that's just she's awesome. She's so lovable as well. Um, so I really, really want to see more of her, but I unfortunately don't think we're going to see a lot of her this season, considering. Um, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I did just want to bring that up real quick because I feel like someone might bring it up just as a little clarification on that. I'm still like all for the representation, and honestly, like I would have been fine with there not being a major white character in this at all. I think that would have been completely fine. Sasha just happens to be my favorite just because of her archetype being one of my favorite archetypes for a character in anything, really. Like I just always liked that. But yeah, so I wanted to clarify that. Again, I still believe entirely what I said about us needing to make this the standard in animation nowadays. And right now it seems like they're doing pretty good with it, but there definitely needs to be more of it. Um, and hopefully there will be. Hopefully there will be. And hopefully with Ghost and Molly McGee still going on, that'll help lead into that. But sorry for rambling and everything for so long about all this stuff. I just wanted to bring this up ahead of time. Now let's actually get into the reaction and not try to sign off on this video like a dumbass. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and it fades back in, now I can't even speak. Everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to however many episodes we end up reacting to today. I swear, I have not had any more beer than this. Just that little bit I took a sip of before. I swear I'm not drunk, even though I kind of seem like I am. I'll see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so I'm going to just say right off the bat, I'm very mixed on this set of episodes. There's a couple of these that I enjoyed, but there were also a couple that I really did not. I wouldn't say I hated them or anything. I just didn't really enjoy them. So let's start with just going in order. So fixing Frobo. This is one of the ones I actually really liked. Polly is trying to fix Frobo on her own with not really any knowledge of how to do so or any sense of self-preservation. And she ends up like finding this internet duo who I guess just happens to live near them, named Allie and Jess, who are the IT girls. These nerdy robot builders and everything who she watches some videos for and tries to use the information from to help fix Frobo. She even gives them a video call, which was set up pretty quickly. It's like, even if like you could find a way to like video chat them, I feel like it would take a lot longer and a lot more effort to try and get that like figured out. I don't know, unless they're like a small time creator. But either way, she activates Frobo, and yeah, it has no seeming knowledge of anything from the past. Just kind of it's just a mindless robot at this point. But somehow her tear brings back its memories, which is admittedly very stupid. It just is. And Frobo is back. They crash, and although he's still active, he's just ahead for now. And I guess the IT girls are going to help Polly fix him the right way this time. Yeah, it's good, and it has a lot of heart to it. It's a nice episode, definitely one of the better ones of this set. My only issue is that the tear bringing back Frobo's memories was fucking dumb. It made no sense. It just there's no sense of logic to it at all. It's not even so much like a Disney-esque trope. It's just so outrageously stupid that it's very distracting, honestly, and it does take a little bit away from the segment as well. Then we have Ansterminator, which was 5B. This one was another one of the better ones, and actually I think this is probably in the top 2 of this set. So basically, out of the 6 segments that we watched today, the 3 episodes, this was one of the 2 best ones. So Anne kind of comes to the conclusion that with everything going on and all, her parents need to know the truth. She's been hiding some of the information about their plans and about what had gone on in Amphibia, and she's starting to feel really guilty about it. However, the Cloakbot, according to what it says here, is given a Suicide Squad-esque bomb timer from King Andreas to kill Anne. 1 hour. And so it only has 1 hour left to kill her. And so it goes on this, there's this big sequence of events of the Cloakbot chasing Anne and them, the Boonchoys and the Planters throughout the city. There's a big car chase and everything, but they eventually get to a junkyard where the Boonchoys help out fighting it. And Mrs. Boonchoy is a beast, which does not surprise Mr. Boonchoy. But yeah, we kind of see that Mrs. Boonchoy maybe has some high expectations for Anne as well. And so they do kind of work together. They make everything up. The Cloakbot is defeated after Anne uses her powers again to launch it into the atmosphere. And then we get kind of the ending, a little cliffhanger, seeing that they're being watched by the FBI. This one had a lot of great character moments with Anne and her parents and all, and it really just really worked. It was a good closure episode for the Cloakbot as well. I'm glad that it didn't take up too much time in this season. And I think the stuff it worked with the family was great. Then we get to my least favorite episode, and not even just because of what happens in the episode, because actually the episode itself is fine. And in fact, I even like it. It's specifically because of RuPaul. So I know it seems kind of weird for a queer person to say that they hate RuPaul, but here's the facts. RuPaul is extremely transphobic. For those who don't know, RuPaul is a drag queen. He is a famous drag performer who created the Drag Race shows and whatnot, and is kind of the most famous drag performer, period. Like, he's the first name they think of. And he is, like I said, extremely transphobic. He had stated in the past and stuff that he originally wasn't allowing trans female drag queens to appear on drag show because he likened the idea of a trans woman being in drag to a sports star using drugs to enhance their performance. You know, steroids and whatnot. He literally compared a trans woman doing drag to an athlete doping. That is excessively transphobic. On top of that, he tried at one point to do damage control for people calling him out. And you know what he did? He's like, oh, I support the trans community. He shared a flag that was for, like, trains. Like, you know, locomotives. Because he had no idea what the trans flag actually looked like. He misspelled it while doing a simple Google search and shared the train flag to his Twitter without even realizing that he was wrong, because he doesn't support trans people. He doesn't know what the trans flag looks like. He was trying to do damage control, which is also the reason why he eventually started letting trans drag performers, you know, perform. And he's terrible. He's a piece of shit. People only like him because he's the most famous drag star. And people in the queer community, for some reason, have this obsession with drag. Like, I have nothing against drag performance, but it's like why is that why is there an obsession with it? Like, in the queer community. I've never understood it. Maybe it's just because I'm not into it. Maybe it's... I admittedly find it a little weird. The idea... Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to dress up as a gender you don't identify as or whatnot. Like, basically, cross-dressing. There's nothing wrong with cross-dressing or whatnot. But performing as another gender and everything, it feels weirdly... I don't know, insulting, honestly. I'm not gonna, like, hate on drag performers or anything. If someone wants to be a drag performer, that's fine. But it's just, it's a weird thing where it just kind of feels like, just personally, it feels almost a little offensive as a trans girl, you know? It feels like a performative version, like almost a performative, almost making fun of trans people to me. And considering the most famous drag queen in the world is transphobic, it's like it doesn't exactly help my view on things. So, yeah. But like I said in the reaction, I can't argue that RuPaul did a good job at the voice acting and everything in this. And at least Mr. X is very clearly a bad guy, so at least I don't have to like him. At least I can despise the character just as much as I hate the voice actor behind him. But yeah, Anne is taking the Planters to see a movie for the first time, and Mr. X and his agents start to follow them and start to chase them through the theater and try to capture them and all. Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy come in to try and help and eventually do save the day. It's basically just this big, like, chase throughout the movie theater with Mr. X trying to capture them and them trying to escape from him. And it's very, as an episode, it's very entertaining and fun, and I like how Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy save the day. Again, my dislike for this episode is entirely centering around RuPaul. It's just, I hate him that much. I don't understand how any trans person could like him. And here's the thing. I fully believe that anyone should be allowed to be given the chance to change. I've talked about this before. Because if I didn't, I would be kind of hating on myself because I used to be a terrible person. But as I've also said, they have to prove that they are not only willing to change, but are willing to put forth the effort into meaning it and all. And from everything that's been seen, RuPaul's sudden turnaround on trans people has been entirely damage control. It's been entirely because he was called out for it, so he's trying to make himself look better by no longer being outwardly transphobic. Which is not meaning it. It's fake. It's performative. So, yeah, it's... If he ever truly seemed to mean it, then that would be one thing, and I'd give him a chance, but he doesn't, as of current, he does not seem to have any real interest in not being a transphobic shitbag, so... Again, at least the character in this is a bad guy, so I can hate on him, so there's that. But then we have episode 6B, Sprig's Birthday. This one is just kind of okay to me. Like there's some good jokes in it, it's fun, there's some good heart, but it just didn't feel like anything altogether special. Like, even for the fact that it was Sprig's birthday, like, the only part that really did anything for me was finding out that the hat was a birthday gift from his parents before their deaths. Like, that was a good moment. But the episode is all about Anne trying to give Sprig a great birthday, because in apparently Amphibia culture, a birthday is just a day of short reflection. You reflect on your life, and that's it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Anne wants to show him, it's like, there can be more. I just want to show you what we do as well. And she wants to help him have a good day. And she gives him a good day, but not because of the things they do, but because they're spending it together. And yeah, there's some interesting shenanigans they get up to, including the entire hot air balloon stuff with the clown and the creepiness and the heavy winds and insanity. But yeah, it's like, it was a fun episode. It's just, it didn't do anything special for me, and it just, especially after the last episode feeling like such a big deal with the, the government chasing them. The Sprig's birthday episode felt very minor to me. I feel like it would have been better if Sprig's birthday was 6A and Mr. X was 6B. Like, you don't have to have Mr. X just after the cliffhanger of the last one. As long as it's still the same episode, then it's fine, right? Like, you could have had the Sprig's birthday one beforehand. Hell, even use that with them, like, in the hot air balloon and stuff as more fuel for like the government watching them and stuff. I think that would have been better because having the Mr. X episode before Sprig's birthday kind of took away from Sprig's birthday a little bit. Then we had episode 7, and here's where things are here's where things are really getting mixed for me. I didn't like the Spider Sprig episode, and I almost feel like that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion. And I don't really care. I thought it was unnecessary and boring. And I'm a big Spider-Man fan. Like, obviously, this was a play on Spider-Man with Brad Garrett's character being Doc Ock and everything. I understood the references and all. Like, even the title of the movie that they were watching, the Tarantulas movie, it was like something about home. It's like, okay, that's a play on the MCU's Spider-Man movies, all of their titles having home in the name. I understood the references. I thought the episode was boring as fuck. Sprig going around trying to be a vigilante superhero and kind of having this rivalry with the Doc Ock character, there was nothing interesting about it. It was done so straight that I feel that was the issue. It just wasn't fun. It wasn't interesting, and it was kind of a dumb idea. Because honestly, it's like you're trying to make a Spider-Man reference episode in a series that is already kind of on that same level of interesting, and it just feels like a downgrade. And the thing is, I'm not saying Spider-Man is necessarily like worse than Amphibia in general. I'm just saying that this series is already so interesting and creative and unique that there's not really anything within Spider-Man that works in this situation. Like, it just makes no sense to do a Spider-Man reference episode when the series that's doing that episode is already so unique and interesting. That would work better in a series where they're, just regular people on Earth and stuff. Where you don't have, like, otherworldly creatures and already all this zaniness and goofiness. It's like, it just doesn't feel like it adds anything. The character of Molly Jo, or whatever her name was again Mary Jane, obviously. It's like, what did she add to this? Like, she all she did was like Sprig being a vigilante, then not like him because of the property damage, and then like him again. And it's like, what is your point? Do you have a point? And the Doc Ock guy, her grandfather apparently, which, by the way, like, what is that supposed to be referencing? Because Doc Ock, I don't think, has a granddaughter in the comics or anything. I might be wrong about that. I don't know everything about all the comics, but I guess if this is also parodying the MCU Spider-Man, maybe it was in reference more to the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming being the father of Peter Parker's love interest in that movie. Maybe that was the reference that was going for. But either way, it's just, it was boring. It wasn't interesting at all. It just felt like they were making a Spider-Man reference just to make a Spider-Man reference. And that's all the episode was. It didn't have any excessive creativity or interest to it. It was just a reference for the sake of it. And it felt very weak because of it. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people might like this episode. I could completely see that. But this was definitely one of the weakest in this entire season so far. And I would say this was a season 1, like early season 1, quality episode. That's not a good thing. Early season 1 was very weak compared to later on. Season 2 was like so drastically better than season 1, but later season 1 had some really good episodes too. And season 3, it's like, this does not belong here. I'm sorry, it just was not good. But luckily, 7B kind of saved the day for episode 7 as a whole, because 7B was the best of this entire set. Olivia and Yunnan was amazing for so many reasons. For one, it's showing more of Olivia and Yunnan, who are awesome characters. It gives a little more development on Olivia, who needed a little bit, let's be honest. Yunnan had a little more already, but Olivia definitely needed just a little bit more to make her a little more interesting, and this episode did it. So, hell yeah. But we see that they are completely planning on rebelling from King Andrias as well, and so they decide to free Marcy in order to get her help to fight against Andrias, because, you know, Marcy is smart. She's the only one to ever beat him at Flipwart and stuff. So they go down into the basement. We see the Moss Man there, who, again, is it the same? Is it supposed to be the same Moss Man we saw in, I think, season 1? I think, yeah, it would have had to be season 1, wouldn't it? I think it's gotta be, right? Because I think there was only the one. I don't think there was multiple. But I might be wrong. I don't know. I think he just kind of left and disappeared at the end, so I guess maybe he was caught. But we also see the spirit jellyfish non-corporeal things. So there's that as well. But they eventually make their way down to Marcy. They free her, though she's obviously not all there at first. She's really woozy. She can not really walk and everything. She's been recovering, but she's obviously been, you know, kept in a stasis for a while. But they do actually revive her. And then they get trapped in this illusion, this, it's kind of like that holodeck thing from Star Trek. But I think other shows have done a very similar thing as well, other movies or whatnot. So I think Star Trek is what created that idea, though. They're basically in this single room, but all these eyes on the wall are creating these holograms of things, and it seems to be like focusing on the worst fears of the characters. For example, Olivia, apparently her worst fear is, like, I guess, disappointing her mother, who does not appear to be around anymore. Because we see a flashback in the episode as well earlier on, where she and Marcy, after Marcy had first come there and broken her leg falling down the stairs, Olivia and Marcy had, like, bonded through looking out from a balcony and seeing the world of Amphibia and everything. And she mentioned, like, doing this with her mother and everything. And so, yeah, we got that development and everything there with Olivia. And so this also added into this. Yunnan, meanwhile, is a brave soldier, but there's one thing she fears. And that is these grubworm things. God, what are they called? Does it say on here? I have this list of stuff. It doesn't say. They're grubhog. That's it. The grubhogs, which we had seen a grubhog before, because it was like the Groundhog's Day thing. But apparently Yunnan had, like, a bad experience when she was a kid, where a grubhog had tried to eat her hand and it left her traumatized, which is really interesting, actually. Like, it's almost kind of played for a laugh, but I wasn't really laughing at that. It's like I actually kind of feel bad for her, because it's like, whether you see it as silly or not, it's like that legitimately traumatized her. To the point where something that seemingly comes across as not that dangerous is so absolutely terrifying to her that it causes her to scream and run away. That's really sad, and I feel really bad for her. Also, Olivia lets out this scream that is amazing. That was such an amazing scream. Also. And we see that Marcy's, that her fear is not being forgiven by her friends for what she had done. Which, it's like, yeah, And it's like we know that Marcy did a bad thing, but at the same time, it's like we also know why she did it. And we understand that there was no ill intent at all. In fact, there was positive intent. But it was without question bad. And she understands that. She does. And it's like, I feel really bad for her. And I like her so much. And she deserves to be forgiven. And she just has to make things right. And she will. Also, the imagery with these little nightmare scenarios was actually really freaky. Like with the movement and stuff on the two-headed Anne Sasha illusion. It's like, Jesus. And Olivia's mother, like, transforming into the giant. Almost kind of reminded me of, in Owl House? The, oh God, what is it called? Grom. It reminded me of Grom when it was Luce's mother, and then it like shot up and turned into like this giant sludgy monster with like a Luce's mother puppet on top of it. It kind of reminded me of that. It's very similar. And we know that these two shows are kind of like sister shows in a way, and they play off of each other. So maybe that was kind of a little reference, a little nod at that. And obviously the Grubhogs turned a lot more vicious towards Yunnan. But they managed to realize that the eyes on the walls are what is creating the illusion, and they're able to stop it. But unfortunately, Andreas comes in because we knew he was going to. It was obvious. We knew that they were not going to be able to get Marcy out of there. And we find out who his master is. The core. We don't know exactly what the core, like, I mean, we kind of know. Andreas called it, like, this amalgamation of Amphibia's greatest minds. But it's like, I feel like there's got to be more to it than that. It's like, I feel there's more information that we just haven't found out yet. Because that just seems very meh. Like, is that just me? Like, why would that be his master? Why would that be the ultimate bad guy, even above him? If it's just this machine that's an amalgamation of all these minds, all these great minds throughout Amphibia's history. Like, I don't know, it just feels like there's got to be more to it. I feel like we haven't found out everything about the core yet. But either way, he reveals that although he tried to argue against it, the core wishes for Marcy to be its host. And so he places this helmet on Marcy, forcing it on him in front of Olivia and Yunnan. And forcing it on her. Why did I say that? Forcing it on her in front of Olivia and Yunnan. And it turns her into Darcy. And I can say that because the credits said it. The credits actually said the name. So I'm not actually spoiling anything because the credits absolutely did. In case like the name is actually directly said at any point. So this is something I knew about, as I said. It was one of the big things I knew about. The fact that Marcy does get taken over by this malevolent force and is named Darcy. I didn't know all the details surrounding it. Like, I didn't know what the core was or anything. But I had mentioned before that I knew what that eye design was that we had seen before when Andreas was talking to his master in the past, I think last season. I had mentioned that I recognized that design and everything. And this is why, because I had seen images of Darcy before. So I knew this was a thing that had happened. I knew that the name was Darcy, but that's pretty much all I know. So anything that Darcy does from here on out and everything, I don't know what it is going to do. Them, I guess, because an amalgamation of all these different minds, I guess you could say them. Plus with Marcy's mind in there as well now. So yeah, I'm very much interested. Plus I'm wondering, who originally made the core then? There's got to be a lot of different information that we're going to be given as this season progresses, because there's still a lot of questions regarding this core. But yeah, at the very end, we see that Darcy awakens, and it's big. It's a huge deal. This episode obviously was the best of this segment, because it was exciting, it was very plot-oriented, and it had some of the best, just intense moments of this set. With a set that had some things that I wasn't a fan of, as well, that also helped it just be the best of these. Plus, it gave us some follow-up on Marcy, which was something we've all been waiting to see. Yeah, it was kind of a big fucking deal, and it changes how things are going to be once Anne and the Planters do eventually return to Amphibia. So, that's fun. And also, there might be a little bit of shipping fuel in there for Olivia and Yunnan. I mean, maybe a little. They had some great interactions and stuff, and there was a little bit of cuteness. Also, Yunnan with the flower in her hair is adorable. So there's definitely that. I think there's a little shipping fuel in there. I could dig it. I can get behind that. Plus, it's like the entire idea of like a prim and proper character being with a tough warrior character. It's a trope. It's a trope. And it's a trope for a good reason, because it's a damn good one. I don't know why. I'm actually usually against the entire opposites attract kind of thing. But for some reason, I actually do like that trope. I actually kind of do like it. And I don't know what it is about it that makes me so interested in it, but I do. I can't lie. But yeah, so this episode I am mixed, or this set of episodes I am mixed on. Because like there's some things I really did like. There is some things that I didn't. And of course there's just the personal issue with RuPaul in there. But hopefully overall, we continue to focus more on the good than the bad. I didn't expect season 3 to be perfect or anything. It was very good so far. I didn't expect it to be perfect, but still. There was some weak ones here. Most notably the Spider Sprig episode. Again, I kind of said that the Mr. X one was kind of my least favorite just because of RuPaul. And that, again, that's a personal thing because of his transphobia and everything. But in terms of the actual episode content, Spider Sprig was the weakest. It was so boring. Even with Brad Garrett, it was boring. It was so uninspired. Even though literally the entire episode was nothing but an inspiration from another piece of media. But yeah. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of this set of episodes, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.